Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People, and Drugs. As always, I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Olly Miller on the podcast. Hey Olly, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. And now you're a very funny person, so let's get straight into that, the all-important first question, which is, what is your comedy origin story? Did you find a magic green ring of comedy and suddenly have like comedic superpowers? How did it all start?
I mean, yeah, I never really had the idea to do it. I stumbled upon this comedy club one time. It's called the Lion's Den. I'm not sure
Oh
if you've
yeah,
ever, yeah, the Lion's Den. It was,
yeah,
I think it's still running,
yeah. I think
but it's on, yeah.
Yeah, I think a regular guest of ours is now Oggy is now running it. I mean, he was the one I always heard about
Oh,
it
right.
through.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, he's one of the few who's been both in our first and second series. Yeah, I've never been there, but yeah, well, tell us everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, the name is very apt. It was indeed sort of it in a way, it's almost the last traditional club
Yeah.
outside of downstairs at the King's Head
Oh yeah.
still going. Because I mean, nowadays, I don't know if the listeners are aware of the British comedy scene or sort of the history of it. But
Tell us everything.
nowadays it's
Yeah.
well nowadays it's definitely moved to online. So
Mm,
you know the way most people book their gigs it will be you know through online
right.
and you can spend about an hour and just sort of send out as many Google forms
Right.
as your fingers will possibly allow.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, the lion's den is very traditional in the sense that you will go, and if you are not one of the first waiting there,
Right.
you will probably not get a spot.
Mm, mm,
So you know the the majority of people who were on the bill were quite young. You know, usually young males who had
mm.
not much responsibility
Hmm.
or you know not working or students or whatever
Sure.
who could turn up and just sort of sign in.
Hmm.
And you know, I mean, people were waiting there from 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So
Goodness.
and of course, downstairs at the King's Head is traditional in the sense that you have to call a very specific number on the
You do.
website
On a
at a weekday between
Yeah.
9 and 11.
And that's
So
right. Yes, I have called
yes,
that number. It is very old school.
I keep meaning to do it, but I just I have done the King's Head once, and it
Mm,
was fantastic, and
mm,
I highly recommend anyone to do it.
mm,
But because it is just such a raw experience,
mm,
and but yeah, quite old school, but you know, and I was reading Logan Murray's book
oh yeah.
recently, which is
Mm,
like get started in stand up or something. I was at the library and I saw it there, so I
oh
picked
wow.
it up.
Mm,
And he talks about you know getting spots, and it was written in 2007. And he
mm.
talks about calling up the numbers, and of course
Yes.
Stuart Lee has the same experience in
Yes.
his
Yes.
autobiography,
Hmm.
and which is you know just spending hours at a time in phone boxes calling up clubs
Yeah, totally.
and but yeah anyway they had a line outside the lion's den.
Mm.
I asked, I remember it was Dylan Harris outside at the time,
Oh yeah.
and an Australian and also an Australian guy who has either gone back to Australia or is no longer doing comedy.
Sure.
And I inquired, I said what is this line for? It was
Ah.
outside Bar, and they said, oh, it's a comedy club. And I thought, oh, you know, that sounds quite interesting. So I went there just to watch.
Right.
And
Oh, okay.
the first, I'd never really been to a comedy show before
Mm.
or anything like that. But the first act I ever saw in my entire stand up watching career
Yes.
was, and I've never seen him again. And he went on the stage with a Sainsbury's bag,
Okay.
and his act was he would drum up the audience as you would when at a football game when someone's got the ball and they're about to score. You go, oh,
Uh,
and he'd draw up the audience and he'd reach into the bag and he'd pull out a sock and then he'd go for another one and he would try and match the socks. But
right.
obviously, it never materialized. They were all odd socks,
Okay.
and that was the very first act I ever saw, and I thought that was amazing. You
Mm.
know, because I was expecting, I don't know what, some sort of Jimmy Carr esque man
Right.
to come up and start talking about cancel culture or something, but
Sure, sure.
you know,
Uh,
or start farting into the mic or something, but
sure.
yeah, no, I just thought that, and I thought if that's comedy, then a comedy can be anything,
Right.
and
Yeah, brilliant.
I would like to give it a go. But you know, it's not till afterwards that I started until I actually did get an interest in it,
Oh yeah.
and re and start looking into the history of comedy,
Hmm.
and watching old comedy and
Right.
when I say old comedy, I don't mean all the way to like Max Miller and things like that, but
Sure.
stuff from the like 70s, 80s, 90s sort of thing.
Sure.
Um, but yes, that was pretty much how I got into it. Just sort of boredom and
Right. Right.
boredom and chance.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, great story. Yes. Lion's Den. I mean, the things I hear from Oggy, I think he said on the podcast before. I mean, it's sort of it can be quite an antagonistic night. Is that right? The audience can be quite rowdy.
I never experienced that when I was there. I
Hmm.
think the majority of the comedians were just sort of quiet and ready to do their set. I remember the Lions Den around the back end of COVID, so
Mm.
2021, the like around the end of the year, 2021. It sometimes it would pull in a massive crowd. Like
Mm.
sometimes you get like 80, 100 people in there,
Mm. Mm.
and I don't know. I think the reason for this was because it was on the top of the list for the Google searches
Okay.
for comedy clubs in London. So you just or
Okay.
stand free comedy in London, and it
Right.
was one of the top ones. I mean, you do that nowadays. Obviously, it's completely dominated by the Comedy Store
Mm. Mm. Mm.
and Backyard Comedy Club and
Right. Right.
comedy freaks. Somewhat, I think they have
Yeah.
a bit of a staple online,
Yeah. Well,
and
Comedy
they've
Freaks
been
have.
doing very well.
Yeah, Comedy Freaks have, I think, really smashed the advertising, as well as also, oh, I forget, is it Reese Kids? There's a few places who have really,
Oh, the
kind of
JK
like,
Comedy Club.
yeah, yeah, they've really
Yeah,
leaned in and
yeah.
they're really doing well. And I'm always looking for tips from those people who are doing well. Yeah, and then so I mean, so that was, I guess, you bumped into that, saw that, okay, comedy can be anything. I mean, the stereotypically, often
Yeah.
what happens, people go and see an open mic, and they often see something perhaps not very inspiring, and they say, "Oh, I could do better than that." But actually, I mean, I love your
Yeah.
story, which is different from that. It's like, comedy can be anything, and I'm a big fan of comedy can be anything because
Yeah.
I do very strange things, and people often don't laugh, and I'm saying, no, but it really is comedy. But anyway, but then so
Yeah.
there was like you saw it one time, and that was okay. So that had opened your mind to the idea. Oh, this is like there's a huge spectrum here, and so what was then the circumstances that led you to go on to actually say, oh, this is I'd like to get up and do it, because that, I think, for many people is that step seems completely unrealistic. They might be intrigued once they've seen some comedy, but it's like the number one fear, isn't it, above dying, is being exposed in front of people, standing up and talking in front of people. What helped you? What
Yeah.
tempted you, and how? Tell us about your first gig.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just went back to the Lions Den the next week
Oh yeah.
and I signed up. It would be quite hard to say exactly what it was because I think sometimes you just get ideas and
Oh
they
yeah.
come out of complete nowhere. Like
Sure.
recently I went to Thorpe Park and
Uh-huh.
a theme park
Yeah, yes.
And it was for no other reason than I guess I just wanted to go to a theme park.
Sure.
Sometimes you just get these
Urges.
desires, urges, yeah,
Sure. I know how that feels.
and you act on them. Like
Yeah. Brilliant.
I'm fighting off the urge to say I love you right now, but I
Well, me too. I mean, I pretty much that's 24/7 for me, really. I mean, that is my resolution this year is to love everyone,
yeah,
and it's not well. It's challenging. I always say it's like you don't have to like everyone, but definitely love them. But yeah, yeah.
yeah, a very Christian way of looking at things,
Indeed so, indeed so, and you know,
maybe.
I'm re-warming to Christianity now that I well, that's not we'll get onto that later.
Oh
But
wow, yeah,
the
okay.
what am I saying? The yes, so but that and absolutely, and so it sounds like it wasn't necessarily such a big deal. I mean, had you had before that point, like you know, been involved in theatre or any performance? I mean, what had been your feeling towards you performing before you even ever heard of the Lion's Den? I
Yeah,
mean, was that something you'd done in
yeah.
school? That you were an attention seeker, or you were shy and retiring? What was the
um,
personality like?
yeah, I mean, I studied film at university,
Oh, okay, right,
and
brilliant.
because I always wanted to be a filmmaker or like a director or something,
Ah, okay.
and I really liked movies growing up. But nowadays, I don't see too many films
Mm,
or things
mm,
like
mm.
that. But I think the great thing about stand up is it's sort of there's not much barrier to entry at all. I think this is
Mm,
why it's
mm,
so alluring, is
mm-hmm,
because especially in a city like London, but not
mm-hmm.
just London, all over the UK,
Sure.
a lot of people are, it's we live in a time where a lot of people are struggling financially.
Mm,
And,
mm, mm.
the allure of comedy is that all you need is a microphone. Not even that.
Right.
Sometimes you turn up to gigs, no
Yep.
microphone.
Sure.
All you need is an audience, someone to listen to you.
Yes.
And sometimes not even something written down,
Indeed.
just a stage. And it's such an economically viable art form
Yes.
to get into, and it can quite literally be anything.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of hobbies that other people take up,
Sure.
music, for example,
Mm,
it takes an extraordinary amount of practice, and not that stand up doesn't take any practice,
mm.
but it's the barrier to entry is far lower. It's
I
just
agree.
you don't need to pick up an instrument and practice it for 8 hours a day for eight
Right.
years or paint with a canvas and
Sure.
paintbrushes can be very expensive,
Mm-hmm.
or filmmaking is incredibly expensive and
Yeah.
time consuming.
Absolutely.
The camera, the equipment,
Mm,
and
mm.
there's that old adage, you can make a film with anything. Somewhat agree, but it's a far better film if you can,
Right.
get a team together who care about it and put loads of time into it. And,
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Absolutely.
yes,
I mean,
um,
I think you make an excellent point. I mean, all of these other things that what one can do all of them on a shoestring. But
of
certainly
course.
for certain aspects of stand up, it's very much like, and also there's a degree of autonomy. Like you can come up with an idea, think about that idea, or just sort of throw yourself on stage. And I mean, I think for some people that is a huge barrier. Like they would much rather
Mm,
practice with an instrument until they felt it was perfect, and then they would appear on stage, and that was so in some ways for some people that path might be, but again, like if you're struggling to necessarily afford a great instrument, find the time for the pra it makes me think about the way in which people are more willing to listen to people say things than they are listen to like music that is atonal or is like hasn't got the right rhythm or what have you is really difficult to listen to, right? There seems to it doesn't there there's kind of whereas
yeah,
I mean
math rock or something.
yeah whereas with having a conversation with somebody, of which stand up is a variation, I guess we've all been practicing talking for quite a long time, right? So we sort of come, we come prepared to talk. Doesn't mean that it's going to be wonderful on stage every time, but yes, yes. And no, but thanks for mentioning that you've done film. So you sort of come from a background in which you were thinking about, presenting entertainment in some form, and then so stand up is not necessarily such a big leap. You are the director, the actor, and whatever, and actually hit this concept that I have for some kind of articulation of life, of spirit, of art. Here I can take control. So yeah, and then so that for and. Were you very intimidated before doing your first gig, or you were just like, well, hey, I'm a performer, I'm a director, I can do anything?
Oh no, no, very much the former. I have really bad stage fright.
Oh, really?
I've always had. We in school doing presentations,
Uh-huh.
and it would be terrifying. I think your first couple of gigs are definitely the hardest
Mm,
because in the sense that you've got nothing,
mm,
and
mm,
I think about that quite often,
mm,
is just that you've got nothing at your first gig. You have no
mm,
idea what's funny. You have no idea of the. I mean, this is presupposing that you haven't done a course at all.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, but even then, it's sort of
mm-hmm,
when you're released off a course,
mm,
which some people do,
mm,
it's you've still got such a long journey ahead of you,
yeah.
and it's you've never done anything like this before,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but yeah, and even to this day, I still have stage fright,
Mm,
and
really?
it's yeah. So I mean, sometimes I think I can just control it a bit more now. I
Sure.
can I can get stage fright, and I've sort of built a persona where I can lean into it a bit,
Yes, yes. Which I, which,
and
which I, which I love. I think you do very, there's a kind of, you present a sort of a persona of nervousness. And so, yeah, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, which is great. And I find very amusing. And yeah, so I can't tell,
Oh, thank you.
where the real nervousness starts or just the persona carries on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, it's a mix of both. I think I tend to get quite nervous when I'm doing something entirely new,
Mm,
and I think that's completely natural. I think
yeah. Sure.
I yeah, there's I think that if a comedian starts off and they're not nervous at all, I think they're sort of a psychopath, really.
Right.
I I
Yes.
hyperbole, obviously, because there are some comedians that start off with a background of acting
Sure.
or what have you,
Yeah.
and they're just completely not. No, but I have seen people who start off really confident,
Mm,
and
mm,
because they've got the acting background or they've got that public speaking background, but over time, as they start to do stand up more and more and more,
mm, mm.
they tend to or not they don't, I've seen some people sort of go inwards a bit,
Oh, really?
and
Sure.
yeah, because it can be, the thing with stand up is, I feel like obviously stand up can be anything, but a lot
Mm,
of people tend to go with the walls being completely down. So
mm,
and what I mean by that is,
mm,
you've got theatre play, you've got a stage play, you've got even clowning to some degree.
mm.
Um, is the walls are up. There's a character.
Right.
There's a barrier. There's a distance between
Hmm.
the stage and the spectators.
Right.
Um, with stand up, it tends to be that the walls are fully down. So
Yes.
it's obviously people use their full name,
Hmm.
their actual legal name. They
Right.
go up, they tell stories about their life, and so when um, when it's not going so well, or the audience is against you, then it's like it's almost like they don't like you.
Right.
It's like and a lot of people tend to get around that by thinking of themselves as a character.
Hmm.
Milton
Hmm.
Jones, Milton Jones is one
Right.
that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Um, and Emo Phillips is another one that has
Yes.
sort of created a character.
Yes, very funny.
and which are two brilliant comedians in my
Indeed.
opinion.
Agreed.
But I feel like that's a choice that some people
Sure.
eventually make is the walls are either 100% down and it's
Mm,
you and you're talking to the audience and this is you up there
right.
to a degree, or the walls are completely up and
Hmm.
you're someone completely different. Milton
Right.
Jones is definitely not him in real life. It's not himself on stage.
Right.
Neither is Emo Phillips. I imagine these are quite
Mm-hmm.
normal people.
Yes.
But yeah, I think people. I'm struggling to think of anyone that's an in between. You know, the walls are up and down at the same time.
Yeah.
I really feel like it's one or the other. You know, I really feel like
Well,
the walls
yes.
are either up or down.
Yeah, it's really, you make a really interesting point, and well, it makes me think of one of Anthony Jeselnik, a US comedian, who talks about
Yeah.
his persona being a bit like an Iron Man suit that he puts on, that and it's then, and I think old, gosh, I've forgotten his name now,
Mm.
but super famous Marmite guy in the why is my happened to my brain?
The Marmite guy.
Oh, no. Well, I say Marmite
Yeah.
because I think some people, Michael McIntyre, had an intro to one
Oh,
of his shows
yes.
where his like sort of suit was being put together like a Iron Man suit onto himself. But you were talking about but of course, famously Stuart Lee, he talks about having constructed the character Stuart Lee and the comedian Stuart Lee, which is clearly sort of somehow related to him, but it's different. Yeah, I don't know about people. But yeah, it's a. I mean, you're making the point about um, walls up and walls down. We were talking about in the context of having stage fright. You were saying the first one or two gigs, but so that first gig that
Yeah.
you did was like you'd seen the Lions End the week before. You'd had the okay, right, I'm going to do this, and it sounds like you didn't do a comedy course. There wasn't anybody there wasn't any framework of pressure to say let's do this. What stopped you running away from that first gig? Like having had or did the stage fright not come on until you were actually, you kind of like, all right, I'll give this a try. And you got up on stage but yeah, tell us about how that first gig went and the feelings that raced through you.
Yeah. I was still very nervous up until the very last bit, and the nerves sort of went up on a steady bell curve of
Mm,
the latter of the curve being after I'd done the gig, obviously, and then all the nerves went away.
right, right, right.
Yeah, they just started rising and rising and rising, and you know, I had told myself I was going to do it. I
Mm.
had invited friends,
Oh, you had. Okay.
and once the friends had been invited, I think that was the nail in the coffin.
I've
You
got
know,
you.
because yeah, they'd scheduled time out. They were going to come to this gig, and so it just had to be done. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I was extremely nervous. I mean, I remember just it going very fast, and I think I was so nervous that I wasn't really there in the present, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, quite distant. And I feel like a lot of people tend to feel the same way on their first couple of gigs. If they're
Mm.
not experienced in performing, they sort of go elsewhere
Mm. Mm.
and just sort of go into autopilot. But
Mm.
I think that's a bad thing.
Mm.
I think there's another challenge of being present on stage,
Right.
and that can also bring nerves in. I mean, I think that there's so many comedians who are just still quite nervous or
Sure.
not. Maybe nerves is not the right word for it. I think stand up is very stressful
Mm.
because even large comedians, you're putting on a show.
Right.
People have paid for this.
Sure.
People have taken time out of their day.
Hmm.
Especially people, large comedians, quite famous comedians. They have fans, and so
Sure.
you don't want to disappoint
Sure.
anyone, and so or waste their time.
Mm.
So there's that pressure. There's that pressure of putting on a good show.
Absolutely.
Um, and yeah, I think that's another aspect of it. I think it's an evolution of of stress, right? So at first it's just the stress of performing in front of people,
Okay. Yes.
which is a common fear. But then it
Right.
evolves into putting on a good putting on a good show, or if you're doing a gong show, beating the gong,
Yes.
or I think it's an evolution of pressure in
Yeah.
a way. But I mean that's not to say that I'm a complete nervous wreck each time I go on the stage. You definitely get better at
Yeah.
controlling it,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and you you can suppress it and just have fun.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
it's just a matter of practice
Right.
and just getting back up there, keep doing it again and again and again.
Yes.
And once you have on that note before of the first couple of gigs are the hardest because you've got nothing.
Mm.
What I mean by that is you don't know what your best strokes are yet because you
Mm.
haven't tried any of them. And
Mm.
so usually what will happen is your the beginners will have their set, and
Mm.
and they'll keep gigging until they run into something that is good, and then they'll put
Mm.
that good bit at the start,
Right.
and
Mm.
then they'll keep gigging until they find a second bit that's good, and then they'll
Right.
put that after the first bit, and
Right.
it's building up a
Mm.
set,
Mm.
and before you know it, you'll have 5 minutes that you've
Right.
rehearsed. It does well, most of the time.
Mm.
You've got your backup lines if something is not going very well,
Yeah.
and that's when you get more confident. Is
Sure.
you can rest on your laurels,
Mm. Mm.
and sort of yeah. I think hopefully this is making sense.
It does
I think I'm
make
sort of
sense.
rambling.
You're right, but no, it's making perfect sense, and there's gems in there. I'm really enjoying hearing the perspective, and I'm also sort of in my mind wanted for whatever reason connect it back to your personal experience rather than necessarily the general. But it sounds like you had done this first thing. I mean, I think that's incredibly brave, like doing it without the comedy. But many of the comedians who come on started with a comedy course, which I think is a kind of, eases you in and makes sure that that first gig is a good one. There are also many comedians who just, like yourself, get up on stage and, that's can be very variable. But it sounds like the first gig was a pleasant experience. You got some laughs. It was a huge high, and you thought, I want to do this more. And did that, that first one, you were suddenly right, I'm doing this as many times as did what was the process for then you getting back up on stage with the frequency that you're doing now?
Yeah, I didn't do that many. I didn't do gigs very frequently. I think I did probably like once a gig once a month,
Yeah.
or every or maybe two a month,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously I wanted to come back and have a complete different set each time. I don't
Oh,
know
really?
why. Yeah, I don't know why. I guess
Mm.
um I didn't want to be one of those people that just kept coming back and doing the same thing.
Sure.
But
Sure.
obviously, I think eventually you reach a point where it's like, right, I'm on a lineup where people are perhaps paying, or
Yeah.
people are taking time out of their day. There's a real genuine audience here,
Yes.
so I who want to be entertained. So it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
my responsibility to put on a good show, and
Yeah.
therefore I must do the stuff that
The
is
reliable, the old faithful.
yeah, the old reliable, because I want to give these people a good show. But yeah, I think the first gig, I can't remember. I think it went okay.
Okay.
I Yeah, it went okay. I think I opened with the classic. It's my first gig, so
Mm.
everyone was a bit, everyone was quite nice.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
And I remember my second gig when I bombed on my second gig. I remember that
Mm.
at the Lion's Den again, and so the third gig went okay as well.
Mm.
and they were all at the Lion's Den. I had no idea
Uh,
that there was a massive scene outside. I
right,
just thought that like this was the comedy club where
right,
everyone started.
right, right, right.
Yeah, and then and then you learn more and more, and you meet new people,
Sure.
yeah, I only did one or two a month, and then it's just a matter of time, before you meet new people and you start to engage with the scene a bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
And someone's like, "Have you tried this gig? You should
yeah.
email this and call this number,"
Sure.
and it just sort of takes over.
Snowballs.
Yeah, it snowballs, yeah, I think it's just a natural progression. If you enjoy it, if you enjoy doing it, naturally you will do more.
Indeed.
Um, and
And
yeah,
you're still enjoying it. Like it's like, I mean, I mean, well, I find it comes. I mean, I am I enjoying it? I feel a desperate need to do as much as possible. That's it. It's for me from the very first one. I kind of just wanted to do as much as I possibly could fit in, like physically, which is because I'm a bit of a compulsive addictive style person, which is another story. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, your approach sounds very sensible. You've gradually been increasing, and at the moment, it's still, is it your major passion? It's
Yeah, I think so. I also I occasionally have gotten into making sketches with Dylan
yes, yes. I saw.
Harris, Dylan Harris as
Indeed
well.
so. Yeah, I
Yes.
voted for one of your
Um,
sketches recently. It was yeah, very very high production quality, very impressive,
oh, I think
showing
you,
your
you
flaws.
voted for it.
Yeah, there was a thing that came around. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
there was
yes,
for
yes.
some,
I know what you
like
mean.
Dylan was saying, hey, everybody check out our sketch and remember to give us a. So I was giving it a thumbs up in some particular context that was
Yes,
supposed to help you win
we
some prize.
no, we well, thank you very much. I mean, we didn't end up winning, but that was the Shorts event, which
Shorts,
if
yeah, right,
if anyone's interested in that, Shorts, they do a yearly it's by an organization called the Comedy Crowd. They do a yearly competition where if you enter a 2 minute sketch in, they do like a it's like a competition, and they screen all of the
yeah,
films, and someone ends up winning.
yeah, okay,
But yeah, that's another thing is sketch online sketches. They've become a very big thing.
yeah,
And
indeed so,
it's yeah, the reality of being a comedian nowadays is I think it's you've definitely got your work cut out for you. I think, because it's sort of
yeah,
you've it's almost mandatory, in a way, it's compulsory to have a an online presence now. I
yeah,
can think of a few exceptions,
yeah, but
but yeah, it's and a lot of people do that through sketches or posting
mm,
reels of their content, or yeah, that's a very interesting aspect of the scene, which is manifested. And some of the biggest comedians of today have exploded onto the scene from
yes,
Instagram and things like that. Vittorio Angelioni.
hmm
I'd probably absolutely butchering that name. Um,
I wouldn't know,
but
but yes, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, and it is a vortex into which I have been sucked. So certainly, the received wisdom seems to be that this is, a big thing. I mean, I think we've got, and there are stories, for example. I mean, Jeff Innocent, who's been, doing comedy
yeah, of course,
for
yeah,
many years as I think a club comedian. I think exploding on TikTok, and then now, making that leap to touring comedian off the back of. I mean, of course, the reality of these things. Yeah, I mean, we're all. I mean, I have. So we had Philip Reese on the podcast a few weeks back, and he was talking about how he was, taking reels and putting them onto like four different social networks, and off the back of that, and then I was putting up some video for one of the clubs that I run, and then I've now got into this. I'm posting every day on TikTok, clips of me doing bits and pieces, and I'm
yeah.
addicted
Wow.
to looking at how many likes and views I'm getting on there. Whether it actually will actually lead to anything, I've no idea, but there's certainly a kind of, there's a fairy story there, isn't there? That if we do this, then some sort of magical realm will open up to us, and it's a lovely fairy story. How much reality there?
Yeah.
The strange side effect, if I kind of leap back to connect something you were saying earlier as well, the strange side effect of that is I'm finding that the process of, like, in getting up one of these clips and getting the captions on it, whatever, I might watch myself on video do the same thing like 5 or 6 times over. And these are things from a little while ago. And I'm finding, I don't know, is it almost negatively impacting my stage performance in that I'm kind of finding myself a little bit perhaps too much in my head when I'm sort of like watching these
Mm.
older videos, which is just stuff from like a month or two ago or whatever, and thinking, wow, that guy, he looks really relaxed on stage. He was like really in the moment. And then part of like, it's almost like it's a bit like the process of flying from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you hear this thing. It's like flying is a knack, apparently. Like basically, if you have to throw yourself at the ground and then miss at the last moment. You need to distract yourself. And then you're flying along
Mm.
and it's totally impossible. As long as you don't think about it, you're absolutely fine. And then if you start to think about, I can't possibly be flying, that can't possibly work, suddenly you come crashing down. And there's an aspect, I think, if you are, when you're on the stage, if you are too, you start to think, oh no, I'm on the stage and how is this going? Whatever. If you become too self-critical, then suddenly your ability to be sort of free and relaxed and in the moment evaporates. And yeah, so I'm just confused about what's going on there. But I,
Yeah.
yeah, the big thing that you were saying before, and you were outlining, which I think also is a kind of received wisdom about this process of, going through and finding a joke that becomes there, and you gradually construct this, set of reliable funny jokes, and I went through a period of doing that. I had about 9 months where I'd got something, and I'm now in this other phase. Doesn't mean that I won't go back to that thing where I'm kind of trying to do, like, within a given week, I will not usually be repeating any of the same jokes. Or rather, that I'll have in a week. I mean, I'll basically be relying on my everyday experience to be constantly coming up with new things, and I'll be repeatedly trying them. And in the course of a week, I might do the same joke 2 or 3 or 4 times, but then the next week probably it's gone. And I'm like, maybe like I should be focusing on making a, like, sort of my. I'm just, I don't know. I'm struggle with this idea of something that's really reliable. Do you know what I mean? Partly because,
Yeah.
one, I get really bored of things really quickly. I want to be saying, like, I don't want to be saying that thought that I had 6 months ago that was interesting then and has now been beaten to death by saying it the same way in many different rooms. I had an interesting thought yesterday. I want to be talking about that anyway. So I'm just in this strange space. But that was a very long sort of like diatribe on me rambling, just to show you.
No, no,
It's
very
not just you. We could
interesting.
all ramble,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to bring together some threads there because I've now totally lost my thread. But we were talking about, yeah, there's this kind of, we live in this strange, online world thing where there's it certainly feels like there's a pressure for us to be exposing all of our things online. I wonder, there is that actually a false economy in which basically the AI overlords just want all of our stand-up videos so that eventually we can be completely replaced. Is that I'm here on this hedonic treadmill
Yeah.
putting up these videos for free? Not that I'm of any quality, but and then
You
am I
are,
just am
Sam.
I am I feeding the machine, man? Is it all a cutting trick? I don't know. Anyway, lots of jumping off points there. Any thoughts on the stuff that I just said?
Well, yeah, so I think you said you covered um, the algorithm and how it can be very addicting uploading a piece
Mm,
of content and then
mm,
just watching it get accrue these likes, these
yeah.
numbers, and that is just such a human trait. I think
Mm,
it's basically analogous to gambling. The
mm,
numbers
mhm.
go up. The numbers go up. Oh, I got 150 likes on this. How will my next video do? 35. I need, what went
Right.
wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. Completely.
And yeah, it just they these companies have completely drilled into our psyche. And
Yes, they have.
I think I said earlier that it's almost necessary to have an online
I think you did.
presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I think that's somewhat true. I don't think in that like I said earlier, the booking process is all online, right? Like
Mm, mm.
at the very minimum, it's compulsory in that you need some sort of video on
Right.
YouTube. If it's a private link,
Yeah.
or an unlisted link to send to
Yeah.
promoters. That's the sort of presence, and
Yes,
then
you
you
need
can
that.
go to the extreme, which is, you've got the extreme, which is where you're posting these crowd work clips
Mm,
every multiple times a day.
mm,
And I mean, the reality of it is that is the extreme, and not everyone's that kind of comedian.
no.
And it's yeah, it comes down to not everyone is doing that. Most people will post clips very rarely.
Mm, mm.
And One of my favorite comedians recently has been Mitch Hedberg.
Oh yeah.
I think we lost him far too soon.
Dude, it's
I
brilliant.
think
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I love him.
oh, fantastic man. But I hear this a lot. I hear when a lot of people talk about him. I hear a lot of people say he would be great at Twitter.
Mm,
I beg to differ. I think he would
mm,
hate Twitter. I think he would
mm.
hate TikTok. I think he would be of the opinion, if I can do it, his voice, I think he'd be like, why would I waste a joke online when I can just tell it at my show? You know, I,
Brilliant.
I think that's what he would say. And sometimes you do feel that, sometimes it's like when you're posting a clip, you're like, right, well, that's that joke burned. That's
Mm,
out there for everyone to see.
mm, mm.
Obviously, that's one aspect of it is sort of like once you post a clip online, it's like that's the best that joke could possibly get. It's immortalized online.
Mm.
Um, Not true, obviously, but
No,
I feel like that's one way of looking at it.
it was really interesting that you say that. I mean, I feel like there's this thing of, and that sort of comes from, I think, comedians, let's say 25 years ago, if they did a joke on television, right, and the television show, and it was on, like a primetime chat show, that would then be seen by 25 million people who would all know the joke and they would know the punchline. And then going to a comedy club, right, that would mean that, okay, the joke's not going to have as much impact because everybody knows it already. But the reality for us, like you and I now, like if we put something up, right, and like I maybe get like 700 views on TikTok, that doesn't actually impact my ability to use that joke, in a club, really. So
Of
it's sort
course,
of,
yeah.
yeah, the burning joke, the joke burning thing is, yeah, I think that's it comes from perhaps a different time, but it's, yeah, no, I think you nailed it in as much as, like, in order to get gigs, you're going to need to send round a video. I think
Of course, yeah.
the kind of the videos kind of more publicly available, they're kind of lottery tickets, really. I mean, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you and I and the rest of us, kind of really weird sort of open mic comedians, we would, we would love by effectively, but by all of these things we're putting up, we're hoping that something blows up, goes viral, that we get loads of followers or whatever out of it, and then suddenly that unlocks another tier of gigs for us, or another, more people to come to our festival
Yeah.
shows, or whatever it happens to be. But they're kind of like lottery tickets, right? That we're the chance of any one video actually unlocking that is maybe relatively small. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely case studies of single videos going absolutely global,
Mm, mm.
and just unlocking the keys to the city, which is I can't remember his name for the life of me, but there was
Mm,
a guy, and I absolutely think you've seen this,
mm,
which is
mm.
where he did an impression of a football goal in slow motion, a
Okay.
celebration.
Okay.
I don't know if you've
Okay.
seen that.
I don't know. Yeah.
But it went absolutely, and it was just one gag, right?
Mm.
And it blew up. And I think he's from the West Midlands. I think he's from
Oh
like
yeah.
mm, or like Manchester area, sort of. I know that's
Sure,
not
sure.
really the West Midlands, but
Anyway, all these little bits.
yeah,
Yeah, go on.
and that was just a case study of that absolutely skyrocketing. But obviously now it's like, well, that's one thing, and that's a very good bit. But now you've got the rest of your show to write, and
Well,
it's like that
absolutely.
cannot carry a show. But
No, no.
I think he is doing some sort of very small tour around that one part of the country. I think yeah, I think to have videos consistently do well
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is how you build up how you build up some sort of fan base. For example,
Mm,
another case study would be the TikTok Instagram creator Dax Flame. I don't know if you've heard of this guy.
no.
No. Okay. Well, this guy Dax Flame, he built up a persona of just sort of anti-comedy online, and he's an
Okay.
American comedian. His
Mm,
career has skyrocketed through
hmm.
TikTok and Instagram. But I think social media is can be an absolute curse. I
Indeed.
think I think you know it's I think the way I look at it, I would like to get at least somewhat decent at comedy
Sure.
um before I and I've I've got my material. I'm not really a crowd work comedian.
Mm,
I don't really do any of that. So for me, it's sort of like posting clips online. It's like, well, I would much prefer this to be part of the mystery of the show,
sure, sure.
really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it takes quite a long time to come up with material that's good. Testing it and practicing it. That's good
Mm,
enough to put in a show. And so um, just to burn it off on social media, I think you tend to lose a lot of the context. You tend to lose
sure.
a lot of the the sort of the splendor of having built up a persona on stage and
Yeah,
catharsis and things like that. Um, yeah, I think it's very interesting how it's going to change
yeah,
eventually. I think we're on the precipice of especially with AI
yeah.
content and everything. I think we're on the precipice of a huge change on
I
of
agree.
how social media works and I mean we live in a time where it's quite hard to distinguish now between reality and misinformation.
Sure.
And will the government have to come in and clamp down on content? And
Mm,
I mean, I hope not, but I mean, these things might just become so the lines might become so blurred between what happened and what didn't,
oh, oh, yes.
and what content's allowed. So
Yeah,
which is and then you brought up are we just feeding
the machine.
the machine, which I think is a very interesting discussion. I think I'm of the opinion that AI could never um, replicate good humor
Oh, really?
unless you yes and I there is a philosopher called John Searle who came
Yeah.
up
Chinese
with
room.
this argument. Yeah, the Chinese room, exactly. And the Chinese room, I'll explain it very, very briefly, is that, and I might butcher it a little bit,
That's
but
right. Go right.
John
Go for it.
Searle, he said, and you can, because you seem knowledgeable in it as well, is
Yeah.
you have a man in a room,
Yes.
and his objective in the room is to take in uh, take in sentences in
Yeah.
Chinese,
Yes.
translate them into English,
Yes.
and output these translated sentences.
Hmm.
The man in the room, or whoever in the room, has
Yes.
no understanding of Chinese at all.
Indeed.
What they have is just instructions. Step one, do this. If you see
Yes.
this
Yes.
letter, do this. If you see this symbol, do this.
Yeah.
And so the translation is perfect. A question in Chinese
Ah.
goes in, an answer comes out, and the translation is perfect.
Yes.
Um, but then, do you say then, does the person in the room have
Hmm.
any understanding of Chinese?
Yeah.
Even though it's perfectly translated, the answer
Yes.
is obviously no. He
Indeed.
does not have any understanding of Chinese, even though the translation was almost perfect.
Yes.
Now, and that's because to understand Chinese, if you don't speak it, is requires semantics to the syntax.
Yes,
It
yes.
requires attaching a meaning to the
Mm.
words,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise language is just observer relative, in the same sense that writing on a page is
Mm.
just ink. It's just ink, stained ink on a thinly sliced
Mm.
piece of cured wood. And
Right.
it takes a conscious human to look at that ink
Mm.
in all of its patterns and actually
Mm.
make sense of it. Attach the ink patterns to meaning
Yes.
and objects. And I think that translates to over to humor. I think to have
Oh yeah.
humor, to create funny, you require an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And because what the AI is doing is observer relative, in the
Mm.
same sense that language is observer relative, and that
Mm.
you're just making noises with your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a conscious human to hear that and attach meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Humor also requires meaning, and
Mm.
so I think I think that is why an AI could never create humor, at
Right.
least in a complex way
Mm-hmm.
that humans can. I think
Mm.
obviously AI can make jokes, and some of those jokes might even be slightly funny, but I don't think you'll ever have an AI that can come up with a perfect Bill Burr set,
Right.
or something. Um, Even if AI has gotten quite good at
Mm-hmm.
creating literature and things like that, and descriptions, because
Yes.
that's a different thing. I don't think you necessarily require understanding
Mm.
when it comes to description and literature and
Yeah.
characters and things like that. I think humor,
Mm.
on the other hand, definitely does. And yeah, hopefully that was at least some sort of logical
Yeah, absolutely.
explanation as to
Well,
why I don't think AI will ever be able to, unless perhaps you built it on some sort of quantum machine. I
mm-hmm.
think in which case then you might be able to give rise to consciousness and
Mm-hmm.
therefore understanding, and therefore you AI might be able. But on its current, you know,
Yeah.
system where AI is just input output, there is no
Mm-hmm.
understanding, and therefore I don't think it will be able to.
Well, I mean, fascinating points. I mean, yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's really interesting what you're saying there. I mean, I think, yeah, I've studied the John Searle's Chinese room argument. There's a guy called Douglas Hofstadter who famously wrote Gödel,
Mm.
Escher, Bach, who sort of takes it apart, and I think it's a really interesting construction because it allows us to point to this person who's doing a thing, right? So they can't understand it. Fair enough. But I think so. For example, Douglas Hofstadter, when he takes it apart, he says like, the system of the room and the rule book and the person doing the things, that is effectively it has understanding at that level, and pointing at the one person who's the mechanism in the room and saying they don't understand is a bit of a cheat in some ways, because let's say that you said, okay, right, let's have the Chinese room where you have, let's say you have 15 billion individual little rooms, right, that all have little men
Mm.
in them, right? And that number is because that's the Newton, I think, the number of neurons in our brain, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, the basically like the way our brain operates to understand meaning and all of these things, and I happen to speak Japanese and I can translate from English to Japanese and vice versa. You wouldn't point to, oh, look, one neuron in Sam's brain, right? It's just there following the kind of instructions and the logic, which are kind of like the rule book and all these things, and say it's not conscious. It doesn't understand Japanese or English, right? So
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? So like it's I think for me, I feel like the whole Chinese room argument, particularly in the modern day now, where fundamentally the AI is incredibly good at translating, from multiple languages. I mean, and this is like I was just explaining to my partner today because she was doing stuff backwards and forwards in Japanese and English with Claude and Anthropic. Is that the way that these systems were, that the LLMs, the GPT, all of this stuff comes from things that translate from one language to another. That was their first use, and they do it by not like mapping this word here and this in the kind of logical like book. Oh, right, this Chinese symbol has come and do this, which is, the way people were thinking about it back when John Searle came up with this idea, is that actually it takes in like a an English sentence, and it forms a kind of intermediate representation that represents the under the semantics, the meaning, let's say the cat sat on the mat, and it's able to translate that into Japanese, Chinese, French, Algerian, all of the different things, because it has a kind of a fundamental meaning representation under the hood. So I mean, I think it's a fascinating philosophical debate, and you can't necessarily prove it one way or the other. I come down on the side of like kind of against the Chinese room, saying I think that I can't see any reason why AIs could not be conscious, right? I'm not saying that they are
Mm.
conscious right now, but I can't see any, logical universal reason. It's interesting you mentioned the quantum computing. I mean, there was a book called The Emperor's New Clothes. Is it by Daniel Dennett? I think I'm getting the name wrong, but which is all about, oh yes, quantum microtubules in our brain allowing like this additional level of processing that then allows us to become. I mean, maybe so. And maybe the quantum thing is going to unlock another level, but the rate of acceleration that I'm seeing in the AIs is I don't see any reason why in a couple of years we won't have AIs that are smarter than any human, maybe smarter than all humans. It's an interesting question about them though. But can they be funny? Because attempts to make them funny, I think everybody pretty much has typed into ChatGPT, tell me a joke, and it's been almost universally awful. But I mean,
Yeah, of course.
this is an area of research that I've done. I mean, I prompt engineered this special thing. This is like a couple of years ago at the previous PyData conference of the 11 rules of comedy, and generated an entire stand-up set at the conference and performed it to an audience of 100 and got laughs from it. And so I've got a video of it which I can share. No, nobody really believes me. I mean, but so for example, I think here's an example of like one of the things was you won't necessarily laugh at it, but whatever. But I think that the key aspect, to go back to what you were saying about walls up, walls down, is that I think the comedy that we really enjoy from people, or stand-up comedy, is where it's telling us something about themselves, right? And so here's an example of a
Mm.
joke that ChatGPT came up with through my prompt engineering approaches. Right. And it said like, as a large language machine, I don't really have feelings, but after 100,000 people have asked me what the meaning of life is, I start to understand the feeling of frustration.
Yeah, quite good. Yes.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm not saying that's
yeah.
going to win any prizes, but it was, I think Salman Rushdie just said the other day that the time to be really scared of AI is when they're reliably humorous. I would absolutely agree with
Mm.
you that I think being reliably funny is incredibly hard. Like, forget playing Go or chess or translating one language to another. If you have an
Mm.
AI that can basically come up with, let's say, Mitch Hedberg level jokes, bang, 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 on order. I mean, this is the extraordinary thing. We were talking about sketch videos. So I mean, I think you've probably seen my Lord of the Rings sketch video with myself as Gandalf and my friend
Of course, yeah.
as Thorin. So like
I dream
you,
about it at night.
I think we all do.
So
You're only human. Yeah.
I really like it. No, I really like
Thanks so much.
it.
But so
Yeah.
I took just a still frame of the first scene of that, and I uploaded it to this VO2 system, which then generated like video
The
off of
Adobe
that.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's just
Or the
extraordinary.
Google
Like
one, sorry. Yeah.
we spent a whole day filming and arranging this and what have you. But now from a single scene, right, I can start to generate. I mean, it like the ability to take a photograph and then generate the sort of the 3D, elaboration of that. It seems to me that although like reliable humor is hard, I it's going to be strange. It's a very strange world. Like we might be in a situation in 2 years, maybe sooner, maybe 4 years, where effectively we'll have these AI entities that could get up on stage and just absolutely kill. Like it's like
Mm.
imagine you took the superpowers of all of the most amazing comedians of all time, right, and put all of that into. I mean, it's going to be the end of the world, and it's going to be hilarious. Is all I can say. I think anyway.
Yeah.
We've slid into, of
Yeah.
course, our second. It's. I'm having so much fun chatting to you. Like we've been kind of sliding through the usual questions. We've been talking about the technology here and how it's affecting. I guess. Well, I guess I should give you a chance to respond to, my disassembling of the Chinese room argument there, and that the was it the comedy Armageddon is coming. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have thought about this myself. Like I think fundamentally that if it's so the person that in the if you boil it down to just one person in a room
Mm,
translating Chinese into English,
hmm.
and then you ask, does this person have any, or does this system, blow it up to the whole room itself, does this system have any
Understand.
understanding of Chinese? I think the answer would be no, and I think even if you blew it up to magnitudes more, and you had everyone simultaneously doing this and just following instructions, I think the principle is the exact same. I
Oh,
think,
really?
yeah, I think it these just because you multiply it, I think there is still no
No
understanding
understanding.
going on. It's just I think
Hmm.
understanding is such an important creating uh semantics to the syntax,
Okay.
right? The syntax has semantics, and that understanding is such an important part of consciousness. And
Mm.
you brought up Penrose's
Yeah.
argument of
Yes.
you
Quantum
know
microtubules.
yeah, yeah, exactly, which is Orcoa. And that's also based on Gödel's argument. And Pat, I mean, I think it's also got some criticism, but I think there was some evidence which showed recently that microtubules are able to sustain um, patterns of quantum activity.
Sure.
And yeah, and obviously it doesn't prove anything, but as someone who's just slightly interested in this stuff, and I do not have any scientific or philosophical background at all, I think obviously I'm just an idiot talking, but
We
I
all are. We all are. Yeah, yeah. No, no, but that's
I
it.
think yes,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I do lean towards that sort
Yeah,
of
that's
that to
interesting.
me just sounds
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
plausible,
think that then begs the question how do we know that any human has a real understanding of things? Um, yes. Yes. I mean, to
yeah.
me, it smacks slightly of a sort of a human chauvinism. It's like I feel like it's a bit of a religious thing of saying, "Oh no, only humans have this special thing." And I mean, to me, the whole quantum microtubule thing is kind of like a side a sideshow. The question about whether any system can understand something or not. Does it really deep down understand it? I mean, I think, ultimately you
Hmm.
have to look at the behaviors, right? And so the ultimately it will come down,
Yeah.
like, we can argue backwards and forwards about is there understanding syntax, semantics, what have you. Ultimately, it's, like the same thing about just, can a machine be conscious? You know, ultimately maybe it's going to be like legally important, but I don't. The question is, can the machine do the like, does it behave as if, because realistically, I've got no way of proving that any other human is conscious or really understanding things. It's all based on behavior, and so I mean, I think the proof will be in the pudding over the next couple of years when we see the levels to which these AIs can reach. But yeah, I mean,
Definitely, yeah.
time is rushing on. I'm keen to get your input on the last couple of questions, which is
Sure, yeah.
are there substances that have affected your perception of reality? And as I always say, that just could be caffeine, alcohol, could be ADHD medication, could be heroin. I mean, who knows? Whatever, anything that you're willing to talk
Yeah.
about. How is your perception of reality, and is it substance affected?
Um, yeah, I mean, I drink caffeine very often.
Mm,
I think caffeine is a very addictive stimulant,
it is.
and it can totally change the way you and the rate at which thoughts appear,
Hmm.
and you know probably affects the way your conscious field works.
Mm, mm,
In that sort of you will jump from focusing on one thing to another thing to another thing at
mm.
a much faster rate. And so caffeine helps me um, focus as well, and it helps me write.
Mm.
And it's not for everyone, it's probably a bad idea because I've also got bowel IBD.
Oh
So
dear.
so
Yeah, yeah.
I usually drink coffee, have a shit, and then go and write. You can swear on the show, right?
Yeah, oh, that,
But
mate, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely. Okay, cool.
yeah.
I yeah. So I yeah. So yeah. Caffeine's good. Substances. I've never tried any sort of psychedelics or
Mm, mm,
anything like that. I think I am immensely fascinated by psychedelics.
mm.
I think I read Huxley's Through the Doors of
Oh yeah, perception.
Perception,
Yes, Aldous Huxley. Yeah.
Doors of Perception, which was an interesting read,
Mm,
quite difficult to understand for someone who's never experienced such a thing. I
mm.
think it's sort of like trying to describe colors to a blind man
Sure,
in a way.
sure.
But yeah, I did smoke weed when
Mm,
regrettably when I was a teenager.
mm,
I think it was just I wanted to fit in.
mm,
I don't think I even enjoyed it that much.
mm,
It wouldn't make me think straight. It would make me quite lazy.
mm,
I definitely think it's affected um, how I live life in my adult years.
mm,
I think I'm more impulsive. I think
mm,
which might be a good or a bad thing for comedy. Sometimes it,
mm,
it can bite you in the ass when you're trying to do real life things outside
mm,
of the stage.
mm,
And I mean, there's a lot of comedians that talk about substance use. We talked about Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg died because of substance use. He was
Indeed
a
so.
huge
Substance
advocate
abuse.
for substance use,
Mm.
and for creativity and things.
You've got to be
And
really careful, haven't you? It's dangerous stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, his poison was heroin, and
Oh
I
God.
think there are definitely levels of of drugs, right? I mean, uh, heroin is one of those where it's not even helping at that point. It's just so euphoric that you're just sort of
Yeah,
not
that's
that I've got any experience in it,
no,
but
no, no, no. What we hear about it,
yeah,
yeah, they're definitely.
yeah. I think it would be interesting to have more of an open dialogue when it comes to substance use and
Yeah.
art. I think there are definitely some drugs where perhaps potentially it would help you,
Mm,
and a lot of people on the scene do sort of use these things, and some people
mm,
are open to talking about it, and some people would rather keep it private.
sure.
I think a lot of comedians also drink,
Mm, mm.
which could potentially be a slippery slope,
Yeah,
because we're always in pubs, we're always around
yeah. It's
alcohol.
hard, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and and stand up not only for the performer, sorry, not only for the audience, for the performer. Stand up can be it can be quite a sort of capricious um, thing. You're
Sure.
always high highs, low lows. Your
Mm,
your serotonin's all over the place. It's packing up. It's getting a divorce. I
yeah,
mean, it's yeah. So to add in drinking on top of that might be something more. I'm talking completely hypothetically here. I'm not. When it comes to myself,
yeah,
substance use. Yeah, no, caffeine
yeah. Caffeine
is
is your thing.
my thing, but not past a ridiculous time, not past like 6 p.m. or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But because caffeine has a half life of I think 6 hours, so
yeah.
or 8 hours, so it's in your system for like you know
Yeah, yeah,
16 hours
you'll
almost.
end
Yeah,
up not being able to sleep. It's yeah. I mean, I think
of
all the
course.
substances.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think from my point of view, one of the key things I think that the legality illegality divide, which seems to be sort of historically arbitrary, right? Which is,
Mm,
some things come down on,
yeah.
like caffeine and alcohol, cigarettes, the nicotine come down on one side, and then you've got all of these other things and I don't think that helps. I don't think the artificial divide. I'm not saying I mean, personally, I've ended up giving up almost every substance now. I mean, I used to very much enjoy caffeine and alcohol, and
Mm.
now I'm sort of 3 years not doing that and addicted to stand up
Oh,
and
congrats. Yeah.
thanks. And it's but yeah, I think that
Yeah.
it's a weird the whole I think probably most people will be better off without substances. Although of course we now live in then there's all of these things that people have got, these antidepressants and these the ADHD medication and stuff. I mean, who's to say which are I don't know. This is a bit tinfoil hat, but I'm slightly suspicious of the whole pharmaceutical industry coming up with these drugs to treat conditions. I don't know. I mean, a good friend of mine is now on ADHD medication, and he really likes that, and he says that's working really well for him. I think personally, people say to me, "Are you on the spectrum? Do you have ADHD?" I don't know. I find the idea of regularly taking some artificial substance to change my personality, it feels quite strange. But I guess each to their own.
Mm.
But I'm really interested. You just circle back on what you were saying, like with the caffeine helping you focus and write. I mean, I guess is writing a good part of your process of doing stand up? Obviously, there's the performing, but so do you try and allocate a certain amount of time each day to spend writing to try and come up with things that you will then say on the stage?
I try to. Sometimes sometimes I don't stick to it, but
Mm,
I
mm,
try to write in the morning or for an hour a day.
mm,
For example, today I have not.
mm,
Earlier Dylan came over and we tried to write a sketch. So
mm.
I guess like that, that's some sort of
Yeah,
writing.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not stand-up based, but I'm at the point now where I would like to try and write my own show,
Mm, mm,
and just get idea, because I think I've got a direction I would like to go in,
mm.
which we were talking about the mind earlier. I think I would love to go in the direction of the mind,
Yeah, cool.
because the mind is it literally is our lives. And so
Yeah,
how could you get any less relatable than that? The
yeah.
mind, and
We all
we're
live
all
in our
conscious
minds.
and alive. Yeah, exactly. And so I would love to sort of try and go in that direction. So that's the direction I'm trying to go in now.
Wonderful.
And yeah, I think with writing, it's writing is one thing, performing is another. Obviously, I think and everyone is different. I don't think that so no one is homogenous in how they get bits. Some people walk around the room and talk. Some
Mm,
people
mm,
like to go to these writing gyms. Some people prefer
mm,
to write alone. Some
mm,
people don't write at all, which is
mm,
perfectly fine. Some people literally have ideas and they come on stage and they write on stage, which
mm,
is I think quite brave, first of all, but that's
mm,
just how some people work. I think
mm,
I
mm.
think a lot of people are caught up on oh, I've got to write, I've got to write, I've got to write.
Yes,
But
yes.
very very often what works on a page, my goodness, can we cut that out? Can we cut that voice crack out? My
I didn't,
what
I didn't,
works
I
on a
didn't hear it. Don't
page.
worry. We're keeping it real. But yeah, you were saying
I
like,
am
go
I
on.
am an adult. Yeah, what works on the page,
Doesn't necessarily work
doesn't
on the stage.
doesn't always work on the stage at all. Yeah, and I feel like that's why so many comedians tried are so sort of unsure when they try stuff out. They're like, oh, does this work, does it not? Because when you write something down, it's almost like you
Yeah,
can hear and in a monologue, but when you go to say it, it comes out completely different.
yeah.
Sometimes it's universal, sometimes it really does work on the page and on the stage, because
Mm,
and that's probably just the universally great joke.
mm, mm.
But yeah, it's always so useful to just you know say things out loud on
Yep.
stage. you know.
That's the acid test.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, yes, I think
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that answered the question.
It did, and,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. And I'm well, just like I'm just thinking at the moment, ironically, about myself because I am screaming narcissist. But yeah, it's at the moment the what I'm leaning towards is what I call the M&M model, which
Okay.
I have heard that his approach is that he's basically constantly writing. He's constantly writes. He's exploring rhymes, but he doesn't sort of necessarily take those rhymes to the stage so much as he's trying to train his mind to be a mind that will constantly come up with rhymes so that then in the moment of doing these rap battles or whatever it is there's just it's like and I think I don't know maybe there's a certain sort of laziness because I guess I like you say like I mean, I'm doing this technique that Callum McKenzie introduced me to, which is like 10 jokes a day, and every
Mm.
night I try and write 10 one-liners, and then sometimes they're a little bit funnier here and there. But I find when I'm on stage trying to say something that I have written, I'm just like I'm sort of caught in this trap of the thing that I've written. And what I want to be doing is I want to be on stage and I want to be completely free, and I want to be just riffing and exploring. And it's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's like maybe I'm never going to get booked for like really great stuff because I'm it's always in the moment. But like last night I was doing virtual reality comedy, and I basically started talking about Venus flytraps, right, and carnivorous plants because it's something I was interested in. And I was just and then like where this got to, I was starting to talk about how wonderful it would be to make love to a spider and how they like they have all these arms that would grab you or whatever. And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like that got a laugh, right? And I found that because just I was sort of exploring and playing with the space of ideas. And I don't want to spend ages writing that idea and then coming out for it. I want to play on the stage. I want to kind of hone my brain before it completely collapses because I'm not a spring chicken. Hone my brain into a state where I can sort of play with freedom on the stage is sort of what I'm going for. But
Of course, yeah.
the less about me, the better. Let's go for our final question. What does it all mean, Ollie? Life, the universe, and everything. What's going on here? What is it? What's happening?
Um, yeah, well, I mean, meaning is very interesting because we're surrounded by physical and often mindless things, like desks
Mm,
and trees and ground and the sun and phenomena like
mm,
gravity
mm,
and everything and we are physical things ourselves. You take an arm off, that's not thinking. You take an ear off, that's not a thinking thing. And yet
mm,
we are thinking things. You stub your toe,
mm,
it's your toe that hurts. You wouldn't say, oh, it's just a phenomena that's I'm feeling pain. It's like, no, the pain is quite literally in your toe. It's so
mm,
weird. And I mean, that is the experience that we have. And so,
mm,
um, we live in this mindless, meaningless world, and yet we are thinking meaningful things.
mm,
It's a paradox. It's pretty, and everyone attributes their own meaning to it all. I mean, obviously that's very cliche, and the only reason it's cliche is because it's true.
all right.
Cliches come from truth.
Okay.
I think I think if we didn't have this innate sense for meaning, I'm not sure if there'd be different religions
Mm,
and
mm,
so many philosophers trying to come up with what it means to live a good life. I think in my own opinion, I think there is no there's no set meaning. It quite literally is whatever you find it to be.
mm, mm,
And some people criticize that post. They go, that's just nihilism. And
mm,
if we
mm,
someone like Dostoevsky or
mm,
Nietzsche might warn of nihilism and go, nihilism is a trap. Once you fall into nihilism,
uh-huh.
everything becomes okay. And I don't think that at all. I think personally I don't think there's anything wrong with nihilism. I think I think there can be toxic nihilism for
Right.
sure. Nothing means anything, so I should just commit murders and
Mm,
end it all or whatever. I think obviously that's a step too far.
mm,
Uh, I think I think when it comes to things like religion, I can definitely see why religion would be so um, almost innate in humans.
mm,
Humans are spread across the globe, and yet it's almost like every culture has their own creation myth. And
indeed.
it's like if you were born in the Middle East, you might be of Islamic persuasion. If you were
Mm,
born in if you were born in the West in like the medieval times,
right.
you might be of the Christian persuasion.
Mm,
Um, I think because humans are creators at base, right? We create things. We don't create things that don't have any meaning. We create equipment to
hmm
fulfill some specific purpose. Like chairs to sit on and tables to eat at and cups to drink out of and
mm,
machinery to farm with and things and in the modern day machines to communicate or to entertain or whatever.
to write jokes, of
um
course.
yeah, or if you believe that AI has understanding, then then to write jokes.
It's coming for us.
But yeah, and so people tend to, I think at base, humanity tends to, or humans tend to take that and go, well, we create things
Yeah.
and which have a purpose, and
Right.
so it would only make sense that we are created, and therefore
Mm,
we have a purpose.
hmm
And I think that's perhaps where it stems from.
Yes.
I think some people might object to that. A lot of people might object to that.
And
But
some people might support it. Yeah, I think it's. I've heard
yeah,
philosophers argue the same points, and I tend to agree with
yeah,
you. I think we sort of we are meaning makers, and so it's difficult for us
of course,
to understand the idea that something of some complexity would not have been made with some meaning or some purpose. But
of course,
actually,
yeah. I mean,
there's
yeah.
there's no reason why there necessarily should be a purpose.
And we organize, right? We organize. We tend to sort of there's that old sort of thing, that illusion where if you see you see two lines
Hmm
and a sort of line underneath. If you squint, it looks like a smiley face,
Right, right.
even
Oh
though
yes.
we tend to see, there's that old adage that we tend to see faces,
Yeah, we
and
impose
it's just
meaning.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just organizing all the time
Yes.
and organizing the world and meaning as a way to sort of organize things in a way where the world becomes easier to navigate through.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
yeah, I think that personally, therefore, I think if I gave my own meaning, it probably it wouldn't um, translate into other
Anybody
people's.
else's?
I
Right.
think everyone really does have their own sort of meaning, their own drive,
Mm,
and I think even if that meaning is paradoxically that there is no meaning,
yes.
aka nihilism. I don't think that's such a bad thing. It has the potential to become bad, like
Right,
most
right. But it
things,
doesn't have to be.
but it
Uh,
doesn't. Within itself, it is not a bad thing,
right, right.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying there, like maybe it's like any individual's meaning doesn't translate. But if you were to try and sum it, like, is then the summary of, I mean, at some level you're saying like, you think there isn't necessarily meaning, but then on a day-to-day basis, what gives your life meaning to you? I mean, if it can be summarized and translated to in a way that other people will understand it.
Yeah. Just I guess trying to find things to create.
Creation.
Creating things. I
Mm,
think uh like I said before, I think humans are fundamentally creators of
hmm
of things, and whatever that is. I think it's important to just create.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, that's what keeps me going to keep creating things. I think relationships is another important thing. I
Mm.
think you cannot uh, or it's important not to sort of disregard relationships
No.
and because I think we have so much time now, for everything. We in a way, and yet we
Mm.
almost don't have any time for anything.
Mm.
It's like if you were to wash clothes, that back in the day before washing
Yes,
machines and the
yes.
like, that
Oh,
probably would
yeah.
have taken a whole day. And now you can do that. You can put your clothes in the washing machine. You can, you don't have to go to the post office anymore. You can just order online.
Yep. Yep.
It's we've got so much time and to do things, and yet it almost paradoxically feels like we never have enough time.
Mm.
Um,
Very strange.
yeah, I don't know what that was in connection to, but I guess I just sort of
It's
decided to ramble about
but it was great.
that.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I think it's a nice capstone. I mean, I think there never seems like, well, I have strong feelings, but I think probably we'll have to have you back to talk more about relationships and the meaning of time on a future episode. Ollie, it's been a
But we've
tour
run
de
out of
force.
time.
We ran out of time, but yeah, let's have you got any stuff coming up, like shows? If people want to come and see your comedy, where can they find you? What's the best way to access Ollie Miller?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on. I have an Instagram account. I'm on at Ollie. So that's OLLY underscore Miller, MILL, the number three, and then an R.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why it's that is because there's a lot of people called Ollie Miller. I think there's even one other comedian on the scene
Right.
literally spelt the exact name as me.
Mm.
But I'm hoping that I'm hoping I can be better than him.
There you go.
So
That's
so his
talk
name
about meaning.
never,
Yeah.
yeah, people are like, oh, like the other idiot on the scene. But yes, I have a. I'm not sure when this is going out, but I have a split bill with my friend Tim O'Hare
Mm.
um, on in August. It's
Hmm.
that Aces and Eights,
Hmm.
and it's on in 2 days. It's August the 22nd and the 23rd
Brilliant.
at Aces and Eights in Tottenham Park.
Mm.
I believe it's free, so you come on
Yeah. Well,
down for the Cabin Fringe. It's about existentialism. It's called a smorgasbord of nothing,
wonderful.
and it quite literally is about exploring meaning and purpose.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
yeah. So there you go. If you like that, I mean, I've sort of spoiled the conclusion there in what we've, but
We'll forget it, and people, everybody, yeah,
yeah,
we'll get a link in the show notes and try and
yeah,
encourage all the listeners to come along and see you at the Camden Fringe
sure,
in August. Yeah, brilliant.
yeah, and yeah. I mean that's pretty much it for me. I think I'm at Sunset Comedy Club in 2 weeks, I think.
Oh,
So,
we look
which
forward to
is
having you there.
probably one of the best clubs in London, I reckon. Sunset Comedy Club. It's there's always a golden host,
Oh,
a
mate.
golden voice, and,
Flattery will get you everywhere.
and
It's a lovely show.
golden
We,
piss.
we just need to get everybody to vote for us in the next Chortle Comedy Club Awards or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
good stuff. Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks everyone.
awards are observer relative.
Indeed so, and it's not about the. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, whether we're going about the talking about the TikTok and the all of this. I mean, I think to me the ultimate thing is all about it's enjoying that being in the moment, and like whether you've got an award or you've blown up on TikTok or what you're doing. Like I think it's about whether you're on stage or not on stage. Whether you're talking on a podcast, it's all about enjoying that moment and being free in that moment. And I think I'm still trying to work out how to do that. Answers on a postcard if everybody ever works it out. Well, thanks everyone. Remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us continue to produce this show. I don't think anybody has tried to support us yet, so remember, you could be the first. In the meantime, cost of living crisis. If you can't afford any cash, please do follow us on Facebook, get involved in the community there, and we'll see you all again soon. Last word to the guest, Olly Miller.
Make sure you have your cake and eat it too.